Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Summer of Me. We are diving into single motherhood today. I'm not really technically a single mother anymore. I never really fully was, but I think that there are so many intricacies and levels of single motherhood, and it gets tossed around like very loosely on the internet. And so we're just going to kind of dive into my experience and talk about it and give you some like tips and things that have helped me along the way. But I just want to before I kind of fully jump in, I know that there are people that have it better than me. There are people that have it worse than me. And nobody's experience is the same. Nobody's situation is the same. You know, for me, I have a co-parent and the kid's dad who has the kids half the time. And so I have time off. I know there are single moms out there that don't have a co-parent that do it 100% of the time all by themselves. And I commend that. It is incredibly hard. And then there's, single moms out there who are remarried and have a partner that acts as the kid's dad. And, that comes with its own set of complications. So we're going to use the term single mother, but I want to make it very clear. I don't ever want to feel like a victim in this. I chose this life. I chose this journey. And, I think that there is a lot of victim mindset that comes with single motherhood. And while yes, sometimes I do feel bad for myself, I'm like, this is the path of most resistance, dog. What are you doing? But for the most part, I try to maintain a very positive and strong outlook on it. So rewind back to when I wasn't a single mom, I was married, and I remember kind of starting to ease into the thought of I may need to get a divorce. This is probably not going to pan out long term. And my kids, I have 5 kids, and my youngest, I think at the time, was 3 when this all went down. And I was just gutted. I hated myself for wanting something different for my life. We talk about mom guilt a lot, and we all suffer from that in various capacities. I hated how I thought. I hated what I wanted. I hated that I had needs. I was just I had so much guilt for the things that I was feeling. And ultimately I had guilt for the things that I knew that I needed to do. And so my entrance into single motherhood, so to speak, was very ugly. It was just, I felt how could I do this to my children? But then how could I do this to myself? And then I went back and forth, and I would negotiate with myself. And, there was so much fear associated with well, what's this going to look like? What if I'm poor? What if I can't do this? How are my kids going to handle it? They don't spend very much time, they hadn't up to this point, spent very much time alone with their dad. I was the primary caretaker of the kids and pretty much did everything. And I, in terms of doctor's appointments and haircuts and school and paperwork and all the things that kids need, right? Moms, this is generalizing, but moms carry so much. I mean, it is insane how much we carry. And I had so many moments of just absolute sheer panic. I was this is it. I fucked my life over. I fucked his life over. I fucked everybody's. There was just such an amount of guilt associated with this decision to get a divorce, which subsequently led to obviously being a single mom. And time went on, obviously, and we ended up getting a divorce and negotiating how much time everybody gets, and we decided on 50-50. And there's weeks where I have the kids more if their dad's traveling or whatever, and we have a very amicable relationship. But I started to say to myself, I wanted my story and my pathway and my journey as a single divorced mom to be, my mantra that I repeated myself is, being a poor single mother is not my journey. It's not my story. I'm not, I lost my house in in the divorce. We kind of decided to sell the house, and I felt like that was my lowest point, because I was this is my children's home. This is my home. And I felt like I'd lost everything in that moment. And I remember thinking well, what now? Am I going to just move into an apartment with my 5 kids and be that lady that we eat top ramen and we sit on the floor and I cry at night when everybody goes to bed? And I firmly remember deciding like, that is not my story. This is not my journey. Like, I am going to feel empowered. I'm going to feel strong. I'm going to feel excited. All of these, like, I had to talk myself into this mindset of being like, this is not my journey. Like, I'm not going to be poor. I'm going to have abundance. And I've always been like a hard worker, but that was like one of the things that like really kicked me in the ass was like, I have now to support these children. I have to provide for them. I think that like occasionally online I'll get messages like, you make it sound like you like live this great life, but like you live off of your ex-husband's income. And like, it's not true. Obviously I get some compensation, but it pays for half of my mortgage, if you'd like to know. So like, it's really not a substantial amount, which is fine. I know how to make money. It's not like I lost that battle in court and was like, I'm not making enough money. I chose to accept this is my journey. I have chosen myself, which has collateral damage, meaning my kids, parents are now divorced and I'm now a single mother and I have to work harder and all of these things. I do not regret that choice. Not one day have I ever regretted that choice. I might have guilt about it and I might feel some kind of type of way about it on certain days. But I've never felt regret about it. And I think that when you're in the beginning of this journey, like mindset is so, so important because it's really easy to hear stories and watch other people's journeys. And just like the stigma around single motherhood is just like, oh my God, you poor thing, like you poor single mom. And like people really, like lean into that. And it's just never, I think that there's an opportunity to create a path forward where it's like single mothers are strong and they're badass and they're empowered and they're capable and they're smart and they've chosen this, like they've chosen this path because we matter too. And it's not like there were so many moments where I was like, and people do this all the time. Like I have to stay for my kids. I have to stay for my kids. You get to stay for your kids. You get to be that. And I understand like everybody's scenario is so different. But you should not have guilt for choosing yourself either. Like you should feel empowered that you've chosen yourself, and your kids will see that as an example of like that they too ought to choose themselves and to be just as important as all the other people in their life. So that was kind of my entrance into single motherhood. And I feel like in some kind of ways, like my husband, when I was married, would travel all the time. And I spent a lot of time alone with the kids. And so, I know like people will say like, oh, my husband's traveling, I'm a single mom this week and stuff like that. And I am always like, I think it's very taboo because it's like, well, you're not though. Like you have somebody to call and you have somebody to like, rely on, or you have somebody that's like, hey, let me send dinner or whatever. So you're not like, there's differences there. But I also think that like the people that are on the other side of that and are like, they milk the system, or they make it all about like being a single mother and stuff. So I think that there's two like varying sides. And so in my opinion, I feel like the term single mother is like very dicey at best. But, my experience has been incredibly fulfilling. I feel like as a single mother, I am more tuned in to my children. I am more attentive. I am more intentional about prioritizing their time, like my time with them. And there's so many silver linings to it. I think, you hear about a lot of the bad things, but there are incredible silver linings to being a single mom. And the other thing is like, you guys, it took me a long time, and we'll talk about this, but like I relish my time away from my children. And while, yes, I feel like there's things that I miss out on, or, like I would love to be there for them every single morning. I think that there are ways to navigate that dynamic, and they are loved by their father and they get to spend more quality time with them. You guys heard my kids on the podcast talking about like, going back and forth between parents. And it's like, we have more quality time with dad when we're at his house and more quality time with mom when we're at her house. And one of the things that like, you learn to do as a single parent, especially when you have like, time off and time on, is really prioritizing and being intentional with like, okay, I have the kids these 3 days. Like I better get my ass in gear and get all of that stuff done that I want to get done on the days they're not here, so that when they are here, like I can really relish in the time with them. Because you do, like at the end of the day, like I have half as much time with my kids as I used to have. And while that, like if I were to really like marinate in that and let it get to, like it would get to me, I'd be like, holy shit, I'm missing out on half their life. But I'm not. Like the reality is that I'm not. There's so many experiences that I still get to enjoy with them. And, when you have both parents there, like people check out, and it's like when we were both there with the kids, or even, like there would be times where I'm like, ask dad, like, I need like, whatever, I can't deal with it kind of thing. And when you're the only parent, like you don't always have a choice to kind of check out like that. So, anyways, all of that to say, I think there's silver linings. I think it's incredibly hard. But I think it can also be incredibly fulfilling. And, I think that like the stigma around it is so negative, and it doesn't necessarily need to be. The other experience that I've had with single motherhood is like the dance with the devil, which dance with your ego basically. And nobody can take care of my kids the way I can. Nobody can love my kids the way I can. Nobody's going to like know what they want for dinner. And like at the end of the day, like if my kids are safe and they're healthy and they feel warm and they feel comfortable, like that all is my ego saying like, I'm the best. They need me. I have to be the one. And like there is, whether it's divorce, separation, single motherhood, this entire journey, let me tell you something. The Summer of Me, there is no ego involved. Like there is ego is like your worst enemy. And I feel like when you can let go of some of your ego, whether it's again with divorce or like being a single mom and thinking like, I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only one, like you can grow so much. There's so much that comes from that because it's like the release of control. And it's like, I don't have to be the only one. I don't have to be the only person that can be a part of my kids' lives. So a few things that I have learned in single motherhood. Number one, learn to ask for help. We have this mentality like we have to do it all and we have to be superwoman, and you're going to need help. There's no question. You're going to need to ask people to help you get your kids home from school. You're going to need people to, watch your kids in a pinch when you're not available or whatever. So the better that you can get at asking for help, the more comfortable you can get, the easier your life is going to be. I, like before this kind of process, hated asking for help. Like it was like, it was a sign of weakness to me. I felt like I was insufficient. Again, ego, like it was all of these things. And becoming a single mother, like people are just very apt to help you. They're like, oh yeah, no worries. We got you kind of thing. And at first you're like, well, I'm fine. Like I'm I'm not weak. But once you get used to just being like, yeah, actually, like it would be really helpful if you could give my kid a ride at home at 8 o'clock so I don't have to like keep everybody up and get everybody in the car at 8 o'clock at night to go pick up, my oldest from football practice or whatever. And I'm grateful, like we have a very good co-parenting relationship. So most of the time, like we can kind of tag team that stuff. But if you don't have that, like there are so many people that want to help, that are willing to help, that love to support. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is actually a sign of strength and a sign of like boundaries with yourself, with your kids, with whoever, like to say like, I can't do this all by myself. And there are people out there that love me and they want to help me, and be comfortable asking for their help. This is something that it's like, even if you are just like, I can't do this, do it one time. Challenge yourself. Ask for help one time. If you know that there's a pickup or a drop off that's every week, it's just a thorn in your side, or you know that like this meal or whatever like is a pain in the ass, ask for help just one time and like see how much it changes like the trajectory of your day, and start to feel like, okay, maybe I can do this again. And you're going to realize there's people that like will help you because they just want to help you. And then there's people that will help you because they feel like it makes them like feel good and look good. And at the end of the day, it's both help. So just fucking take it. Learn to take breaks. This is something that I actually like really realized. When you have one parent living in the home, it is like really hard to get like a break. Like it's not like when you have two parents there for dinner time, it's like, okay, mom makes dinner, my dad might help clean the dishes, or like, mom needs to shower, and so dad's gonna like do your guys' baths or whatever like your need is. And so then like I started to feel like a little bit like overwhelmed, like, oh my God, like especially when my kids were a little bit smaller, but I was like, how do I do all of this stuff like by myself with all of these children? And like, how do I multitask? And there's not anybody else to rely on, like in your like day-to-day routines. And so I started communicating with my kids. Hey, mom is just like you. Like I need a break. I need 5 minutes. I need to lay down. I need a timeout. I need to, like I need a nap, whatever it might be. And empowering your older kids to help without feeling like you're like using them. I think there's like a very fine balance there. But then also just like communicating with your younger kids. It's like, hey, mommy really needs to like lay down. My head really hurts, or I just like need a break. You can either come lay quietly next to me, or you can do this activity, and like giving them an option to do either or. But I think that like we so often think like we just have to keep it all together and like manage everything and like be perfect about it. Communicating with your kids, like, I am a human too. I have needs too. And like, how can you scratch my back and I scratch your back, essentially? Because that makes them more well-rounded humans. And like, that makes them understand dynamics of relationship and all of these things. If you're just a slave to your children, you are going to be a shell of yourself. I think it's so important to help them to understand, like, it's just mommy here. Like, how can we work together to make it so that your needs are met and my needs are met? With that being said too, like, I think just like for your mental sanity, a 10-minute break goes a really long way. Even if you have to lock the bathroom door or like take a shower by yourself, just 10 minutes to have silence. Like, I would put my noise canceling headphones on, go lay in my bed, like whatever it is, just to reset. Because sometimes you're like, I am going to actually chew my left arm off if I have to listen to one more person ask me for a snack. Prioritizing your time. This one I go back and forth with because I think it's a blessing and a curse. I have time when I don't have the kids to get a lot of things done. I can get all the laundry done. I can clean the house. I can get all my work done. I can, do all the things that I want to do because I have 3 days a week or whatever without children. I think that is amazing. And there's a lot of prioritizing that has to happen in that time because you don't have as much freedom as you would if you had two parents living in the home. However, there is also something about balancing that out with like rest, and like you don't have to be on all the time. It's not like when your kids aren't home, you have to be on for all the other things. And then when your kids are home, you have to be on all the time for them. You're not going to survive. You're going to max out. You are going to keel over, and you are going to simply pass away. So having some sort of balance, I usually try to, like, once the kids leave the first day, like I try to get a bunch of stuff done so that once, maybe the second day comes around, like I can veg out on the couch and like watch a show or do something like for myself. At the end of the day, like we're in this fucking predicament because I chose this path. I chose me. I chose this journey of like, I matter and I get to exist. So I'm not setting a good example for myself or my children if I'm just busting my ass now 24/7 and I've given myself twice the amount of work. And so you deserve a break. You deserve to rest. You deserve to take a night off or whatever. And so don't feel like when your kids aren't there, you have to just do this mad dash of getting everything done. When I was first becoming like the single mother, I felt like anytime I had the kids, I was like, so what are you doing? How's your day? Where are you going? Like how, and I would like almost like stalk them. And they're like, the fuck are you doing? Like, bitch, back up. But I felt like this insurmountable amount of like guilt that I was like making them only spend half their time with me and half their time with their dad or whatever. And it's just, they don't see it that way. And the more that you can come to terms with it and like give yourself grace for time and just, the experience in general, I think that like it gives a little bit more balance. Finding your reprieve. So this sort of parlays from the last one, but you're going to need an outlet, and it might not be the same outlet that you used to be able to have, whether that was like, for me, for example, my outlet always used to be like, I'm going to leave and go to Target and Home Goods. Like, mind you, like when I used to do this, like there was like, the kids were like calling, like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Calling and be like, how long are you going to be gone? Like, it was just this very like, it wasn't really that enjoyable, but it was like somehow like my reprieve of like, okay, I have like silence. I can drive somewhere. I can listen to whatever music I want to listen to and whatever. That's not an option when you're a single parent. That cannot, like, if I leave my 5 kids home alone, God knows not only am I coming home to 10x the amount of mess that there already was, but like, they're just not old enough for that. And so, I had to kind of like figure out like, what is my new reprieve? And so for me, it became the Peloton. Dennis Morton specifically was my reprieve. What does he say? Be good out there. And if you can't be good, be careful. I was like, okay. But that like the Peloton was something that I could do that was a release for me that felt like some sort of like freedom in my home, and like my kids could interrupt and like whatever, but at least I felt like I was exerting energy. I was doing something that I enjoyed. I felt like I was getting like a moment of my own like peace. Also, you guys, just like for the record, invest in some noise canceling headphones. Like they go a long way when you're a single parent, and being able to just be like, I need peace and quiet for a minute. I'm just going to mute the world. Anyways, I think finding like, even if it's just, sometimes I would just like take a hot shower and bring my phone in the shower and like scroll on Pinterest for like 10 minutes. Just being able to find something that is going to kind of reset you and make you feel good, and having it in your home so that you can do it when your children are there and when they're not there. This is something that I learned in therapy, and I think this is really powerful. It is really hard. The hardest adjustment for me being a single mother is the time that I don't have the kids. You think like, oh my God, you get all this time without your kids. The guilt is like insurmountable at first. The temptation to want to just like pile your time with a bunch of things, because it is so weird to be quiet and alone, and like, especially like going to bed at night by yourself. You're like, wait, I have kids. Like, what? Where is everybody? Like, the silence is deafening. It is seriously so hard at first. And I told my therapist, I was like, I can't be alone. Like, I cannot be alone with my thoughts, with myself. Like, which was the whole irony of like this whole thing was like, I was choosing me, but I was like, I can't stand being alone by myself. Like, I don't know how to do it. I've had kids since 2012. Like, I've had a baby attached to me, or somebody talking to me, or somebody needing something. And like, so when you're home alone, not even during the day, because obviously kids go to school or whatever, but like at night especially, I was like, all these crickets. Like, I started like hallucinating. I was like, people are talking to me. Like, I don't know what's happening. I didn't actually start hallucinating, but I felt like it, right? Like, you're just like, I don't know how to do this. And so I would fill my time. I would go out to dinner with people that I didn't even necessarily want to be hanging out with, but like, I would just like try to be doing things all the time. And it became exhausting. I was exhausted because when the kids weren't home, I wasn't getting a break. I wasn't relaxing. I wasn't like catching up, recuperating. I was just like, go, go, go. Whether it was like going out to a bar or going out to dinner with somebody or just going shopping, whatever it was. And she said, stay busy while they're gone until you're comfortable staying quiet. And she challenged me. She's like, stay home for 1 hour. Just like give yourself 1 hour after 5:00 p.m. was kind of like my like issue, my time issue. And she's like, after 5:00 p.m., give yourself 1 hour and stay at home and just like relax, watch a show on the couch by yourself. Like, and I know I'm saying this, and all the moms out there that aren't like divorced or whatever are like, God, that sounds like heaven. It does sound like heaven when you know that you have all of that at your fingertips. When you don't have the option to have everybody come back or whatever, it's not heaven. It's actually hell. Like, it feels so traumatic. Like, I've worked so hard. I've built this whole family, and now I'm just home alone on a Tuesday night. Like, no, I don't know what to eat. How do you cook for one person? Like, it was just like this, my world was turned upside down. And so she told me, she's like, just spend 1 hour alone. And then like, once you're comfortable with 1 hour, then you do 2 hours. And like, you slowly have to ease into it. She said, it's really hard. Like, the transition to just like being alone by yourself at home is like very hard. And I know some people even experience this, like when their kids go to school. You know, some moms you see and they're like singing the Lord's praises when their kids go to school. And some are like, I just like feel sad. Like, I'm lonely. I don't know what to do all day. And it's that like multiplied because it's like at night and you just like, do I eat by myself? This is like so depressing. And so just like understanding that it's a process and it's not like something that you're going to understand like, or feel okay with overnight, and giving yourself the reins to be like, slowly move into that experience and say like, okay, I'm going to stay home tonight for 1 hour. And then next week I'm going to do 2 hours by myself. And then I'm going to go, I would go to like a coffee shop to just like avoid being home alone. And eventually like I got to a place where now I like love it. I'm comfortable. I feel like I can relax. Sometimes I don't turn on the TV or music. I just relish in the silence. And before, like the old me, I would have been like, what's happening? Like, who's talking to me? Like, it was like so scary to be alone with my thoughts. And so anyways, I think that just like being okay with understanding like what you're going through and knowing that it's a process to get to a place where you're at peace when your kids are not home. Ultimately, at the end of all of this, one of my like passionate messages and like starting this podcast and just sharing all of this is like, single motherhood does not have to define you. It doesn't have to be the thorn in your side. It doesn't have to be your, like the thing that holds you down. It doesn't have to be any of those things. Single motherhood can be the most life-giving experience. It can be incredibly rewarding, and you're not defined by your circumstances. You're defined by your choices. And so choosing like, what kind of single mother am I going to be? What are my finances? How am I going to create abundance for my family? How am I going to show success? Like all of these things. And you have an opportunity to show your kids that like, you don't need other people. While we love having other people, and I love having a spouse, and I loved being married for the record. Like, I love the idea of all of that. Like, it doesn't define me. I can do this by myself, and I can flourish in this. And there's so much promise in this journey. It just takes time and honestly, just a lot of growth. So anyways, thanks for listening to another episode of The Summer of Me. Thanks for listening to The Summer of Me. You can listen to episodes on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube. Come hang out and follow my chaos on Instagram @KendraForNow. See you next time.